Hi, this is Janette Mattingly from the EFT Express. Today we're going to do some tapping for shopping anxiety. Issues around going shopping at the moment, which I think most people are finding quite difficult and quite challenging. And then I'm going to share with you a really wonderful process that was created by Steve Wells from EFT Down Under. It's called the intention-based energy process, and you can use that either with or without tapping as a brilliant way to help us to ride the wave of what's happening in the world at the moment, rather than actually allowing ourselves to get sort of, cast down into the depths where it's very difficult for us to get out. I don't know who it was who said this originally, whether it was Steve or somebody else, but just last night I was listening to him having a conversation with Dawson Church, and he said again, emotions are meant to move us and move through us. And I think that's a really brilliant explanation of emotions. If they move you but they get stuck and they don't move through you, then it's a problem. And one of the beautiful things about tapping is it actually allows us to get that energy moving and to get those uncomfortable feelings to move through us. So yes, move through us and move us. So I would really like for you all to tap along with me for the whole time. I'm just going to go through the points again. Today I won't use the face points, but if you have just washed your hands really, really well, please feel free to use the face points. But because we're doing this in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm just going to avoid that. So the points I'm going to use today are the top of the head, the collarbone point, and the other day I've added in a lung point, which is just where your arm sort of joins onto your chest here. So that's a good point to be working with at the moment. The thymus point, which is just here on the chest, which is a point that I really like, although not a traditional tapping point. The one that's under the arm, where your bra band is for women. And then the finger points, which I showed you the other day, just on the top of each finger, moving down the karate chop point. So they're the points that I'm going to move through today. So it's a bit hard to be tapping on something when I don't have someone with me to actually be working with. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say anything that comes into my mind about issues around going shopping. Some of those will really resonate with you and go, oh, yes, I actually feel like that. Some of them won't. So if I say something that really resonates with you and you recognise that this is an emotional problem for you right now, then please continue to focus on that while I continue on with other things. You focus on what that means for you. Pay attention to what level of anxiety you have in your body and if there's a shift in that as we tap along. One other thing I just want to say as we're tapping along and before we just get started on those issues, I recently joined a chat and tap with another practitioner, and I was quite interested to hear someone say that they find it really hard to get tapping in during the day, that at the moment they can't get that time off to go into another room and do some tapping, which I found fairly extraordinary, because I honestly cannot think of any time in my day that I cannot tap. Whether that's when I'm in the shower, if I'm lying in bed, I can imagine myself tapping and that will work for me. I can tap while I'm standing in my mosaic studio waiting for some inspiration. I will use the finger points like this. I use these points when I go for a walk. I use them while I'm watching television, or I can just gently rub the points. And it has been proven that it's much better if you can get as much tapping in during the day as possible. Even if you don't get time to go and work directly on an issue, if you get enough tapping in during the day, you will get the benefits from doing that. So it's not essential to have a separate time you can go away and tap. Honestly, you can fit tapping into any part of your day while you're sitting in the car, waiting at the lights, in the supermarket, waiting to move on to the next item for somebody to move on. You can discreetly use the finger points then. It is honestly so simple with this simple energy technique to get lots of tapping in during the day. Okay, so let's just start with I want to go out. I want to go out, but I don't want to go out. I want to go shopping, but when I think about going shopping, I get quite anxious. I'd much rather stay at home. But the problem is I have to eat. My family has to eat, I have to eat. So it's necessary that I go outside. But right now, being at home is my safe place. I feel safe when I'm at home. I feel comfortable when I'm at home. And I'm in control. I like being in my safe place. Once upon a time, my safe place was very, very large. But right now it's contracted right down and I feel safe when I'm at home. And I don't feel safe when I go shopping. The supermarket, which was once a source of so much joy, so much delight, finding out what the specials were, now I feel afraid and anxious. I could order things online. That's a possibility. But then I don't always get what I want. If they don't have what I want, then they'll put in something else. And I might not like that. I really like to be in control of what I get when I shop. I like to look for the specials. And right now I'm finding that I'm just allowing myself to have a few little treats that I normally wouldn't buy. So the supermarket has become a very challenging place, a very challenging space. And yes, I could order things online. But I also need to go out and have social contact. Sometimes I run into someone in the supermarket that I know and I can wave to them across the aisle and say hello. This anxiety going shopping. What if coronavirus is everywhere? What if this unseen terrorist is everywhere, on all the fruit and all the vegetables, on all the plastic packets, on all the cardboard boxes? And the scientists say that it can live for so many hours on plastic and so many hours on cardboard, and it can live for so many hours on fruit and vegetables. Oh my goodness. It's like running the gauntlet. It's a bit like playing Russian roulette when I go shopping. My mind can create numerous fearful scenarios. The thing about fearful people is that we can create the most catastrophic scenarios you could ever imagine out of thin air. So this coronavirus could be everywhere. But what if it's nowhere? This wonderful creative mind that I have, could be anywhere, it could be everywhere, it could be nowhere. So I can use my imagination to create the worst case scenario, the catastrophic scenarios, or I can use my imagination to create the best ones. Of course, I'm still going to use my excellent hygiene techniques, even if it isn't anywhere. I feel like I'm running the gauntlet. I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. What if I bring the virus home? Or worse still, what if somebody I love goes shopping and they bring it home? That's really filled with anxiety, because when somebody that I love goes to do the shopping, I'm not there to control what they do. I'm not there to make sure that they put their hand inside the plastic bag when they check the avocado, or when they pick up the bananas, or when they pick up a can to have a look and see what the ingredients are. I'm not there. Totally out of control. I hate being out of control. When they're out of my sight, I don't know what they're doing. If only this unseen terrorist could be seen using UV light. You know, when you go to have your skin checked and the doctor uses a special light to see if there's any abnormalities on your skin. If only we could all go around with these UV lights on our heads that just showed up the coronavirus, then we could avoid it. Or if it had little flashing red lights, you go, it's over there on the tomatoes. I won't get that one, but we can't see it. This anxiety about not being able to see and not knowing. I want to be really clear when I go shopping. I'm afraid that if I go to the supermarket and I'm really, really anxious, I'll make poor choices and I won't think straight. It's really interesting to see the people trying to open the plastic bags to put their fruit and vegetables in without licking their fingers. That's something I became aware of recently. Trying to open those plastic bags and they won't open unless you lick your fingers and do that. What if I touch the plastic bag? What if I lick my fingers and it's got coronavirus on it? Oh, there's shopping anxieties I never thought of before. This shopping anxiety. When someone I love goes to shop, what if they don't keep 2 meters away from somebody? All the what ifs. What if, what if, what if? What if they were completely safe? I don't know about you, but I can already feel my breathing just becoming much, much more relaxed. My lungs are opening more. I'm taking deeper breaths as I'm starting to release this shopping anxiety. This shopping anxiety. This fear and anxiety about going out of my safe place. This fear of being uncomfortable. The beautiful thing about tapping is it helps us, gives us the empowerment, the possibility to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what I love about it. Even people I know who are incredibly aware of their feelings and how they create their life, I've been really interested to see how many of them are feeling so uncomfortable right now. I'm willing to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And when you trust the process of being able to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, then you can tackle any feeling, because you trust that this simple act of tapping on these points and keeping your energy moving and keeping your energy flowing will allow the most uncomfortable of feelings to move through you. So even though I'm anxious, even though I'm afraid to go shopping, even though I feel uncomfortable stepping outside my front gate, I'm willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to be comfortable. Sorry, I'm willing to be comfortable with these feelings. Okay, so just take a deep breath. Please keep tapping on these finger points. So anytime you see me sitting here, I'm tapping, don't you worry, I'm tapping. So hopefully that has given you some issues that you might like to tap on. If there are any particular things that I mentioned, the fear of a loved one going to do the shopping, the fear of, you picking up the one avocado in the supermarket that has got coronavirus on it and bringing it home. These are all fantasies. And so I'm going to share with you now a really wonderful process that was created by Steve Wells. And it's called the intention-based energy process. And you can use this technique with or without tapping. But in my experience, everything's always better with tapping. No matter what your belief systems are, no matter what you do, tapping really helps it to be much more elegant and much more creative. So I'm going to share a screen with you now. I'm going to try and share a screen with you now of Steve's process, which he says is fine for me to share with you. Okay, so this is Steve Wells' intention-based energy process, or IEP. So it's just really a three-part, well, really, I suppose four, because before you even begin it, you need to recognise that you have an emotion. Okay, so I recognise that I am anxious about something, or I'm fearful, or I'm feeling uncomfortable. So you simply tap and you say, I release all of my emotional attachments to the problem, the event, the image, the belief, the thought, the person, the thing. So for example, I release all my emotional attachments to going shopping. And what you do when you say this, you just need to say it once and then you continue to tap and check in, focus in on your body and what's happening in your body. So when you think about going shopping, perhaps you might have a churning in your solar plexus, you might feel a constriction in your throat, a constriction in your breathing, you might feel a tightness, a bit of a tightness in your chest area, you might feel a pain in your head. And check in and feel that. Now you may not feel anything at all. Some people are more aware of what they feel in their body. But if you do feel a constriction in your body, then you say, I restore the right energy flow to, so for example, say it's your solar plexus, your stomach area. I restore the right energy flow to my stomach, to my solar plexus. And then I restore the right energy balance to that area. So you're restoring the flow, but you're also restoring the balance. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I work with something and there's a big shift and energy moves through, sometimes for me it can throw me out of balance and I need to bring myself back into that balance. It's a bit like perhaps a flood moving a boulder down the river. It gets it moving, but then you need to bring the flow of that river back into balance. So that's the simple three-part process. And it's amazing that energetic shifts can happen with that, because we have a whole lot of emotional attachments to things, to thoughts, to feelings. And I'll just share one with you that happened to me last night. I went to do the shopping the other day and I really love golden kiwi fruits, and there was a packet of golden kiwi fruits. And normally I would look at where they come from before I buy them, because I do prefer to buy Australian produce if possible. This time I didn't. And I opened them last night to have one for my dessert, and I saw made in Italy. Well, my thought process went crazy. Oh, they're from Italy. Oh, I wonder if, all the what ifs. Oh, I wonder if they've got, and immediately that thought, the knowledge that they came from Italy, and my anxiety went like that. And I just thought, hang on a minute. Just because they came from Italy, where there's been a lot of coronavirus, I release all of my emotional attachments to the fantasy that eating a golden kiwi fruit is going to give me coronavirus. And I actually was able to laugh at myself at how quickly my fearful mind went to the place of golden kiwi fruit, Italy, oh, I've got the virus. So But, you know, the mind can easily do that. So it's a really fantastic way to catch your thought processes, to catch where you quickly attach an emotion to a thought or an image or an idea, and allow you to quickly release that attachment. And the thought then, oh, these kiwi fruit came from Italy, then it has no emotional charge. It's just like, oh yes, I ate it and it was really delicious. I have even had fantastic success with saying I release all of my emotional attachments to everything. Everything. And the number of times I have felt my blocked energy in my body just literally fall away has been quite amazing. And you can make very global statements about things. I release all of my emotional attachments to the coronavirus. I release all of my emotional attachments to having to stay at home, and just pay attention to what happens in your body and see if you feel that emotional charge just fall away. Another interesting thing I've found, and Steve talks about this too, is to frame the issue so that you have two different aspects of it, so two opposing aspects. For example, you could say, I release all of my emotional attachments. I might just stop sharing this now. I release all of my emotional attachments to not being able to control something. Control what happens when I go shopping. Control the people who, you know, cough without covering up their, you know, don't cough into their elbow, or the people who pick food up, have a look at it and then put it back down again, just with their bare hands. I release, and then you can look at the opposite. I release all of my emotional attachments to being able to control that. And it's really interesting how often the greatest emotional charge is on the opposite side to where we think it will be. So that's something to have a little play around with if you love tapping and you really do want to take charge of what's happening on a day-to-day level. Try using this process on both sides of the equation. I release all of my emotional attachments to the fantasy that everybody else will use the same impeccable hygiene standards that I do. And see what happens when you tap on that. See if you have a blockage anywhere in your body around that. Because anxiety, fear, they're always about something that hasn't happened yet. So we can incapacitate ourselves with fear and anxiety about something that hasn't even happened and probably will never happen. But we allow ourselves to be gripped by those feelings, to not move through us. So again, tapping allows us to realise, oh yes, I have got an anxiety about something. It hasn't happened yet. I can release that anxiety so that I can actually be present right now in myself, 100%, able to react, able to respond, able to be fully present when I go shopping. Okay, so that's some tapping on shopping. I hope that's helped you. So there's two processes. You can just keep tapping all day as much as you can to build that good life force within your being. You can tap on specific things, specific aspects of going shopping. And you now have another tool that you can use, which is the IEP process, and just work directly with whatever the issue is and releasing those emotional attachments. Okay, so if you would like to do some one-on-one work, I have reduced my fee to $50 during this coronavirus crisis. So if anybody would like to work specifically with something, we can do that over Zoom or over Skype. That's really helpful sometimes to work with someone else. Often someone else has got a better overview of what's happening sometimes than you do yourself. And if you want to learn more, obviously, about Steve's IEP process, you can go to his website. I have put the PDF of this process on my website, www.EFTexpress.com.au, and also there's a PDF on the resources and research page of that, and also of a list of emotions and their definitions, which I have found to be incredibly useful over many, many years, to help those emotions teach me, move me, and move through me. And it's in the allowing them to move through you, I think that's so critical to learning what they're about and learning what's really important to you in your life. Also, perhaps I will send out if anybody would like me to stay in touch with them, you can subscribe via the website, or you can send me an email to, I'll just share this screen as well, to mattinglyjanette@gmail.com, because I'm thinking of perhaps starting a Zoom tap along, not necessarily to do great in-depth work, but just to check in and see how people are doing, to get together as a community, sharing the ways that we build tapping into our lives, how we deal with going shopping and things like that, and sharing any of your insights or anything that you've gained from these videos. So yeah, happy shopping, keep tapping, and breathe deep, seek peace. Bye for now.